Samurai Champloo Sidetracked was an adaptation of one of my absolute favorite animes, Samurai Champloo. From creator Shinichiro Watanabe of Cowboy Bebop and Space Dandy fame, the hip-hop Edo period road trip to find the samurai that smells the sunflowers was put into a 26-episode run in May of 2004. I vividly remember my friend Jonathan, who I worked with at GameStop, forcing me to watch this series in the most unconventional way. He used to rip each new episode as it released and converted them to an MP4 file to then drop onto my PSP for me to watch. Now that I think about it, I ended up watching a lot of anime for the first time on my PSP. If I'm being honest, I was head over heels for Samurai Champloo from the first listen of the opening theme song, Battle Cry, which was produced by the late great Nujabes. Now, if you've never heard of Nujabes, he and Fat John did the soundtrack to the anime series. It has a lo-fi, chill-hop feel to it, and to this day, I never skip the opening to Samurai Champloo because of it. Just give his Modal Soul album a listen sometime, you'll be glad you did. No matter where it all began, I can definitely say that Champloo left a life-changing impression on me. So I knew out of all the B-sides I would eventually cover, this was going to be the one that I was most anticipating. Samurai Champloo is the second licensed anime game Grasshopper worked on with Bandai. It began development directly after Blood Plus. This time around, there weren't any deadlines for producing the game in tandem with the run of the anime, as the series had already aired in Japan, and was beginning its syndication on Adult Swim in the West. Champloo was an international smash hit, so Grasshopper published this title outside of Japan to reach a wider market this time around. According to Suda, anime director Watanabe gave Grasshopper his blessing to do whatever the fuck they wanted with the game, which allowed Suda to get more creative with Champloo more so than Blood Plus. However, Suda opted to stray from the anime's storyline and create a self-contained adventure. Although Suda doesn't consider this game to be a hidden gem by his own standards, the title ended up only selling around 50,000 units worldwide. This game is still relatively unknown, so I consider it to have a place in the B-sides. At the time of this video, it has a Metacritic score of 66 and a user score of 7.2, but I'd wager that the user score is a useless metric to judge this game's quality by. My evidence is this review by Johnny D back in April of 2006. Amazing, I loved it all the way through, but for an FPS, it could have had more weapons. 6 out of 10. So Samurai Champloo's story follows three unlikely comrades: Mugen, the vagrant swordsman, his polar opposite frenemy, the Ronin Jin, and their always starving but lovable sidekick Fu on their quest to track down the nondescript samurai that smells of sunflowers. Now you can choose to play as either Mugen or Jin, whose stories run parallel to one another, and their experiences are mostly the same. Unfortunately, you cannot play as Fu, with the exception of one minigame, so please ignore the Wikipedia entry that states there are 4 playable characters. There's not, and I should probably edit that now that I mention it, but fuck it. After you complete either Mugen or Jin's quest, you can unlock a third original character named Warso, but I'll talk about him later. Most average players will likely choose Mugen because he's basically the mascot of the series. That was my reason, at least. The gang are still on their journey to find the aforementioned samurai that smells the sunflowers when hunger overtakes their better judgment and they hop on a ship that's advertising free meals.
They're roasting a whole pig. Check out that huge porker they got going.
Mugen, wait!
As mentioned, this is a side story, and the entire impetus for the journey is about getting some food, and ends up spinning into a tale about finding magic gems in order to stop a demon clan from taking over the world. The story here can be humorous and sometimes outlandish in parts, but overall, it just feels like another quest for the magic MacGuffins, with a few twists in between. It's a more restrained product for an original scenario by Suda51, and I can only assume that he had so much respect for Watanabe that he didn't want to push the envelope as much as he did with Blood Plus. I'm just thankful that I love the source material and the main characters as much as I do, so being a fan beforehand really helped. From memory, the supporting casts are all an interchangeable blur, with the exception of Papa Neer.
What kind of meat is this?
It's mutton. Sheep.
Sheep?
And this Kinkabancho band of monkeys.
Listen, human, you're really starting to get on my nerves. Think you can take us? Okay, monkeys, kill him!
Bring it on, you dirty apes!
Upon first glance, you'll notice that the aesthetics are downgraded in comparison to Blood Plus and Killer 7. Here, they opted to make a blend between lifelike and cartoonish caricatures of the anime counterparts. As a result, all the characters and levels look flat and don't stand out from one another. It doesn't hold up over time. Side note, I love the cutscene transitions. It's a treat to see what new art they prepare for each of the title cards to the stages. If it's one thing I can count on this studio for, their style always seems to be top priority, for better or worse. And this game can be described as having a hip-hop rhythm battle system, which is a unique take on your standard beat-em-up game, and way more ambitious than your typical anime adaptation game, where developers usually just phone in the gameplay to bank in on the property. At the very least, I can say here that Grasshopper didn't play it safe, and they got a little ambitious with the gameplay. Rhythm doesn't necessarily play as big a role as you'd hope, as you can just button mash to chain attack till you land on the combo you want. Mostly you'll just be staring at the top screen looking for a red box at the end of a chain to activate the Hyper Mode. Hyper Mode allows you to attack enemies quickly for stronger damage and will increase your tension gauge. See this little Vib Ribbon dude in the corner here? He represents the tension gauge. The more hypers you pull off, the more hyphy this guy gets, till a star appears over his head. Then an enemy with a star will appear on the field, which if you strike that enemy, will throw you into Tate mode. And no, you won't be turning your monitor sideways for this shit. Tate mode is where you have to mash all the face buttons on the controller 100 times within an extremely short time limit. If you manage to mash it 100 times in the time limit, you'll be thrown into trance mode. Trance mode is where you enter this techno dojo and fight 100 shadow enemies to unlock secret weapons. That was a sentence I just said. This is easier said than done because you fight 3 enemies on a screen at a time, and the lock-on is never reliable. You only get 3 hits before your character is knocked out. The enemies are hard to see and your lock-on just never works, so I usually just clear it by button mashing and dumb luck. You do regain a hit point after 50 kills, so that helps out a little. You gotta go through so much button mashing to even get to trance mode that you'll likely be drained of all focus needed to carry you through the 100 enemy deaths. If you do win, you get a new weapon, which may or may not be a total piece of garbage. If you lose, you get artwork for your troubles. Hooray! Now the further you proceed into this game, enemies begin blocking and countering almost everything you throw at them. So activating hyper mode becomes nearly impossible, because you'll never get down the chain of 6 hits needed to activate it. You'll have a chance to do QTE counterattacks, which will slow down the game, so you can hit one of the buttons that pop up. Doesn't matter which one you choose, it won't continue your combo. If you miss, the enemy hits you. There's also one more lesser known parry mechanic that is really never explained in the game, and I could only get it to work a couple of times, so it's like it barely exists in the first place. Basically, you have to stand still and hit circle just before an enemy's hit lands. If successful, and it probably won't be successful, you'll dive into hyper mode. With the camera being so far away from the player, it's just hard for you to read the enemy's movements, and I deem it far too risky to even bother with in the first place. But it's there if you want to try it. Though the gameplay is roughly the same for both characters, I would argue that Jean plays better overall. This is due to Mugen being an over-the-top dance move-based character, and his combos often miss hitting the enemies, or he'll occasionally bust out a handstand for no reason in the middle of battle that leaves him wide open to be attacked. Now for some reason only Mugen can jump. The jumping just never works on the first try. You'll stand in these glowing spots, and then Mugen just refuses to grab the ledge, until he randomly decides to glitch his way onto the platform. I'm not kidding. He does this every time he has to scale walls. Just look at this shit. The enemy AI is brainless. The gameplay just boils down to slashing through waves of copy-paste enemies until they eventually drop a koban, which are another form of currency needed to pay off these strange doormen that block your way to progress. The way the kobans drop is completely random. You just keep killing hordes of lackluster enemies to stack up enough kobans to progress to the boss fight. There's an issue present that also bothered me in Blood Plus One Night Kiss that's also present here. The apparent lack of blood in both titles. If you've watched either anime, you'd come to expect an adaptation of the source, when adapted by Grasshopper manufacturer no less, should include some blood here or there. Blood was even in the title of the last game, and the only blood present was just used for one special attack, and that was it. Anyways, the censoring of the gratuitous violence and the language was present in the Adult Swim airings of both Blood Plus and Samurai Champloo. This just boggles my mind that Grasshopper held back in this department. Perhaps they recognized that they needed a title with more mass appeal, and the gore might limit the audience base. Whatever the case may be, No More Heroes ended up having enough blood and curse words to make up for both titles. With the QTEs and the enemies exploding into coins, I just couldn't help but think that yes, this is kind of a beta of No More Heroes. You get introduced to the Castle Town, which acts as the hub world. Here, you'll encounter NPCs with not much to say, but there are stores and fun side games to play. You have a blacksmith where you can buy, repair, and swap out swords. This will be important as your main swords are very weak. You can carry up to 2 additional swords which are stronger, but can be easily broken. You unlock most of the better weapons through the trance mode, so enjoy the grind. The coolest part is the vinyl record shop. These LPs determine your fighting styles and also come with a certain perk attached to them, like a higher defense or attack perk. You can only equip 2 at a time, an A side and a B side, and you can't change them outside of the shop, unfortunately. The usage boils down to personal preference, except for the last one, Flatline, which is one of the most useful as it sends you into hyper mode with every strike, at the expense of minor health. Further into town, there are 2 item merchants that sell you level perks, so you can boost attack, defense, money drops, or weapon strength. Only differences are the price tags on the items. I'd recommend picking up one of these perks before heading out. Over in the carnival area, you can play 2 mini games. You get the ice cream eating competition where you can train to mash buttons for prizes, or you can choose to participate in the best part of the entire game, Beetle Wrestling. Beetle Wrestling is the most intense shit in the world, and I love it. It's like an automated game of Pokemon where you can pick a healthy beetle or a discount beetle that may have the beetle aids. The weaker your beetle, the higher the payout for winning. You have no input on the battle with the exception of choosing your beat.
Yeah! Yes! Yes! Yes!
This is the easiest way to make money in the game. You can take all your yen and throw it down on a sick beetle for a 9 times payout, and then just reload your save until you win. Now it took me around 20 reloads to do this before I got my payday, but hey, it was worth it, so keep that in mind.
My Brygar! What have you done?
The worst part about this game are the boss fights. They're completely random in terms of difficulty. There's no sense of balance or progression in the difficulty. Mugen's boss fights are the worst examples of balance in the entire game. If you make it to chapter 4, you have to go through waves of these pompadour sporting monkeys with hard to hit hitboxes, and they get cheap hits on you, only to encounter the boss gang of monkeys, and they got afros and mustaches. So if you manage to defeat them, you get thrown into another boss fight with this demon guy, the aptly named Oni Tsubaki. This wouldn't be an issue if the game had the courtesy to refill your health, repair your weapons, or give you some sort of respite, but no. You have to fight this tornado-throwing motherfucker 4 times in a row. 4 times in a row. 4 times in a row. You heard me correctly. 4 brutal fights with no way to recover your health. That's 5 total boss fights back to back, if you count the gang of monkeys, and I do. This is where you're gonna understand how broken the balance is in Samurai Champloo. You see, if you die during this fight, you're placed in the first of the Oni fights. With full health, that's fine, but you'll likely die trying to even get to the second phase, let alone the 4th phase of this guy. I'm under the assumption that the developers had an idea how badly they fucked up some of these boss fights, so occasionally they'll throw you a random bone if you die enough times. You'll either get a bonus of double health, quadruple health, or they'll repair your weapons. For this fight in particular, I'd recommend just dying over and over until you get the quad health perk. The worst part is, the hardest fight is still yet to come. So the very next chapter, it takes place in the world of Cheetahman 2. Same rules apply, smash a bunch of shit, get Kobans. Here, I thought Grasshopper was gonna have something retro inspired, something zany or fun as a reward for overcoming that Oni boss fight. Oh no, you'll finally face off against the witch that has put the cursed snake inside of Mugen, but strangely, she's not the last boss fight, although she might as well be. Prepare to be spammed by field covering magic before you even get a chance to land one hit on her as she teleports away across the map. If you get hit by the first cycle of magic, you might as well just drop the fucking controller because she can just spam you with 4 more attacks in succession until your death with no recourse on your end. You just gotta take it. Just look at this depth of field. There's no frame of reference for where you're standing. It's just a fixed camera angle on a static image of the galaxy and no indication of where Mugen's hitbox is in reference to where the magic damage boxes are. What's even worse is that you have to judge the position of these lightning barriers circling around the witch when you finally move in for a strike. This fight is just the textbook definition of cheap boss design. It took me 23 solid attempts to finally kill this witch, and that was only after I was granted quadruple health. I'm convinced that you can't beat this witch legitimately your first time through without some sort of perk or a little luck on your side. There's no strategy. In stark contrast, here's how easy Jin's boss fights are in comparison. Look at this fight. It only takes 1 hit to beat, and you're done.
Ray!
Yes, that's the way. You finally did it.
He doesn't have any bullshit Oni man that you gotta beat 4 times. And the cherry on this sundae is that the last boss fight with Jin is this King Kong bear guy that just takes 1 cycle of strikes and it's game over. Roll credits.
Child's play.
So after you've completed a level, you get all of your scores tallied up, which will determine what kind of Champloo you are at the end. I don't know if the title is randomly assigned to you, or it has something to do with the amount of enemy kills or player deaths, but I'm just mad, because I wanted to get the title of Space Champloo 1 time, but I didn't get it. Sad
Is
face.
this right?
Guys, I'm just torn on Samurai Champloo Sidetracked. Whether or not I can give it a solid recommendation to you Grasshopper Boppers out there. This isn't your typical licensed anime game. It does go out of its way to try new things, so that's a plus. I thought the hip-hop fighting style was pretty unique for what it was. I think this would have been better as a 2.5 beat 'em up than a 3D Muso-style ninja genocide simulator that it ended up becoming. There's just something wonky about the entire experience. There's no sense of cohesion. The enjoyment I had with this title diminished greatly the further I played into it. At the beginning, I was in love with this new battle system and the good music tracks provided by Grasshopper veteran Masafumi Takada. And while not too similar to the composition of Nuja Bass and Fat John, it's a decent listen for an in-house produced soundtrack. I was getting super invested in this game when I hit the town. I was thinking I was experiencing some overlooked classic by that point. Now, by the time I had finished the second level, I had experienced just about all this game had to offer, and that fact became apparent to me by the time I reached the final level of the game. God damn. The last level in particular is why I cannot recommend Sidetracked. You have to go through seemingly endless waves of enemies in a desperate attempt to collect enough Kobans to continue on, and you won't want to continue on. You have to go through these dojos with enemies that block and never seem to drop Kobans until you've slayed at least 30 of them. You're gonna end up killing more enemies than a Dynasty Warriors title just to get coins to move on. It just slows this fucking game to a crawl. There's no benefit to doing this outside of moving on to the next screen. You just keep grinding until they eventually pop. There's no interesting boss fights in between to break up the monotony, no checkpoints. You just save up enough Kobans to move through the 10 doormen between you and the final boss fight. It'll take you over a half hour at the very least. They copied and pasted this level for both Mugen and Jin. So even if you're having a better time with Jin, you'll realize what's coming up and then just lose the will to continue on, but somehow I did. Anyways, my patience was just spent upon completing this level. The last boss fights for both Mugen and Jin are a complete joke. You just strike them and dodge their arms. Really nothing special. Everyone just eats food and goes home. Before I close this out, I should mention there is a third playable character. The original character, Warso, but there's really not too much to say about him. His playstyle is pretty much a reskin of Mugen's. His story is about fighting magic bears, trying to become king again. I just didn't have the heart to continue on, because his levels require ridiculous amounts of Koban grinding to get to the next screen, absolute padding the story. Samurai Champloo Sidetracked was the last title Grasshopper developed for the PlayStation 2, as the newer generation hardware and handhelds were coming out in the market at the time. This would be their last console title until 2008's No More Heroes on the Wii. However, there was one handheld B-side that I'm gonna cover that released with almost no fanfare. Join me next time on the B-sides for... Hey everyone, welcome to the End Slate, where I'm going to talk about my Patreon pledges. Now, since I only have 5 so far, I'm going to go ahead and give a special shout out to each and every one of them this month, and we'll just see what happens as we grow. So, I want to give a big shout out to Thor High Heels. Go check out his channel. He's a really good reviewer, and we like sort of the same games, so go check him out. San and Sense with a $10 pledge. Holy crap, thank you. I think that was in reference to a $10 bet we had over Lisa the Joyful, so thank you, San and Sense. Edge Doe, man, I haven't caught up with you in a very long time. I'm surprised you even watch my videos, but thank you so much, man. You know who you are. Mark P, I'm not going to use your full name, but yeah, that's the same Mark that's appeared in our videos here. $15. Holy shit. I don't even know what to say to you. I'm gonna make you proud. I'm gonna put some good stuff on there. And my boy Comic-Con Reviews putting that $1 down so he can see all the Hikikomori media drama and make videos about it. Well, hey man, thank you so much. If you want to donate to my Patreon, that's cool. If not, it's fine too. I've got some exclusive videos that I'm going to be posting on there, and they're going to have about a 2-week exclusivity on there, and then I'm going to post them on the channel. I'm also updating what I'm working on next, and any sort of behind the scenes things or images or funny stuff. I'm not going to annoy you with all sorts of garbage in your emails. So yeah, go ahead, click the Patreon if you're interested, if you like what you see. I really appreciate any donation whatsoever at any level. So yeah, if you want to see what's coming up, go check it out. Thank you.